Is it true? Did Prince Harry and Meghan Markle somehow manage to snag an invitation to King Charles's coronation? But as part of their agreement for going, they are apparently going to demand a royal summit and a huge groveling apology from King Charles, Prince William, and the rest of the royal family, which I don't think they'll get. Hello everyone, welcome to Royal News Network. My name is Brittany, and today we are talking about the breaking news that despite everything that Harry and Meghan have done, Charles has graciously, apparently, extended an invitation to the coronation for the two of them. And I know this broke and everybody was like, what the heck? We all got done, or at least a lot of us got done, watching Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's reality TV show. Some of us were incensed by how the couple portrayed the royals, especially Harry saying that King Charles lied, and all the other things that went on. So why in the world, why on earth would Prince Harry and Meghan Markle ever be deemed worthy of walking into Westminster Abbey for Charles's coronation? I have a couple ideas why that might be the case and why this might actually be a really, really good move for the palace in many ways, and how it will, I think, again, turn the screws to Harry and Meghan and really put them in a very, very tough spot, much like they did with the Jubilee. And they've also apparently are demanding an apology because they believe that the palace bent over backwards to apologize to the woman who said Lady Susan Hussey offended her. And now Harry and Meghan believe that they are deserving of the same treatment. But given that it is going to be the coronation, will they get it? And I will say, I just rewatched my video about the Jubilee and my predictions, and I was very much right about how Harry and Meghan would be seated in the church for the St. Paul's service. I was 100% right on that, and I think I have some pretty good ideas here too as well. Although I will say that for anybody who watched my videos back then, bravo to you, because those were not as good as they could have been. So thank you guys so much. That was still when I only had, I think, a couple thousand subscribers. So that was a very much a new video. So I'm very excited to do this again in a different format and see if I am right. But if you guys haven't been here to Royal News Network before, like I said, my name is Brittany and I'm a royal commentator. I discuss and analyze things happening within the British monarchy and royals all over the world, looking at the latest news and gossip. In addition, I will be reviewing television shows and movies and sharing a bit of history as well. So if you guys are interested in any of that, feel free to subscribe. I also have a fashion channel, Royal Fashion News. I'll put a link down there below as well. If you love gorgeous dresses, amazing jewelry, that is the channel that you will enjoy. In addition, I also have a trip coming up to the UK, which will happen a couple weeks after the coronation. So if that's something that you are interested in, if you're looking to get out and enjoy the British gray skies, maybe that occasionally will get some sunshine, and looking at some of the coronation merch and some of the coronation regalia. I think there'll be a lot of really interesting things going on in the UK at that time, even a couple weeks after the coronation. So I would love to have you join me. And again, link to the trip will be down below. But like I said, this news, Charles inviting Harry and Meghan, everybody's like, why? And again, I understand the concern and the confusion. Let me read you guys a bit about what we've learned about this. So I first saw this report in the Telegraph. And it says the Duke and Duchess of Sussex will be invited to the coronation of King Charles, despite their public criticism of the royal family, the Telegraph has learned. The Sussexes, who used their Netflix documentary to make a series of serious allegations against the palace and the family, will be included in the ceremony on May 6th if they wish to attend. So what does this mean? Why in the world is Charles doing this? It seems like every time they invite Harry and Meghan in, Harry and Meghan take the opportunity to criticize them, gain some footage that they could use perhaps for Netflix or something else. So why in the world would Harry and Meghan be let back into the royal fold in this way? We all understood what was going on with the Queen's funeral. Obviously, it made sense for Harry and Meghan to be there. But why the coronation, this day of national celebration, would you bring in two people who so clearly hate the royal family and everything it stands for? And I think there's some obvious reasons why that is. Number one is that the palace has thinking, hey, Harry and Meghan have all made all these serious allegations that we were cold and that we didn't welcome them, especially Meghan, and that we didn't make efforts to include them. So what are they doing? Why, they're always making efforts to include you and bring you in. So it's kind of like somebody you know who you always invite them to things and they never come, and then they complain that they don't spend any time with you. That's a bit of the dynamic, just on a much bigger scale. So the palace is thinking, okay, Harry and Meghan keep lobbying things at us, but we'll continue to be the grown-ups, the adults in these situations. We will still invite them. We will say, hey, come, with some stipulations, which I'll get into. But they are like, well, yeah, come. It's okay. We'll figure it out, and we will just honor the fact that you are still family, and this is a huge event, and that it is critical to your father, to your brother, to your nephews, and your niece. This is a huge moment within your family. So, yes, we will invite you to this. And the other thing is, I think could happen is that Harry and Meghan could decline the invitation. I don't think they will, but it would be interesting to see, because they seem to hate the family so much, just absolutely incensed, hate it so much, that they will decide not to attend because they don't really want to interact with Charles or William or Catherine or the kids or anything like that. They're like, well, we'll just stay away. It's just better for everybody if we just stay home. And there's been a lot of talk that there might be a lot of booing from the crowds for Harry and Meghan. I think that would be rather interesting to see. I made a Twitter thread and I kind of said, well, British citizens, I won't be booing. If I was going as a tourist, I would probably consider it and probably do it. But since I'm more of a journalist, I want to hear what other people are doing in that situation. So I'll leave it up to the rest of you if you decide to do that. So Harry and Meghan could themselves decide to stay away. But the palace, I think, did extend the invitation because, again, they're outplaying Harry and Meghan in so many ways. Meghan, despite all that she thinks, she's not really this Machiavelli figure. She's not that good at managing and all these different aspects of a court, which is a very, very complicated system. I've said this many times. If you are in a medieval court, you're playing off whoever the highest religious person is, whether that is the cardinal, whether that is the Pope himself, depending on whether you're Protestant or Catholic, that title could change, but you're trying to play off that person, the bishop. I think I said cardinal, bishop too. And then you have the addition of whoever the king is, and then you have the heir, and then you have the spouses. So you have to play all these different sides incredibly well. Meghan and Harry haven't shown that they're able to do that. And so they haven't been able to manage all these aspects of a modern court, which is very complicated, and it's not life or death like it was definitely back in the days of King Henry VIII, but it's definitely not easy either. And Harry and Meghan, I just don't think they can play the game at the level that they need to play it at to really be successful. So the palace is outplaying them here. Sure, Harry and Meghan look bigger, bitter, angry, so many things, but they're like, we're above it. We're still going to invite them no matter what. They are still family. I feel like that is a huge boon to the royal brand, this idea of family. We saw that so much during the Jubilee. I feel like we'll see that again during the Coronation. So that's a really, really smart thing, I feel like, for the royals to do, is to lean on this family brand. We saw this at the Together at Christmas event. So if the royals can continue to play that well, I feel like that'll take them really, really far. Even though to us it seems very frustrating, I understand that Charles, that he is struggling in his relationship with his son, but he doesn't want to give up yet. And I admire that. He looks at Harry and he sees a prodigal son that he hopes comes home someday. Because when I was watching Harry and Meghan's reality TV show, it struck me that Harry said that not only were Charles and William, they were misinformed. Charles lied to the Queen about Harry or Meghan. And I feel like Harry's in this space where he is so confused anymore and so conflicted and twisted. He doesn't know when down is up and up is down. And Charles and William know that. And I know Charles has probably more of a tender heart, whereas William perhaps is harder because Meghan has made very public attacks against William's family. And so I feel like William is definitely more protective and just doesn't really want to have any interaction with Harry and Meghan right now. He's willing, I think, to meet with Harry, as long as Meghan's not in the picture. But I think Charles is a little different here. But again, why even risk it? Well, there's a couple things they could do. Now, I predicted this for the Jubilee, and it happened to be entirely on the mark. So I'll share with you a little bit of what I said. Be prepared. It's not the best. So go ahead and take a listen here. And I think the palace extended this invitation. They were thinking of the Queen, and they were also thinking, this is a chance for us to show Harry and Meghan, even though they accepted, who is king of the castle. and that is the crown. And so I think Harry and Meghan will be a little humiliated on this trip because I think they'll be relegated to like third or fourth string. And what I mean by that is when Harry went to the Jubilee in 2012, he was on the balcony. This time he's not. When Harry went to the Jubilee and attended the service of Thanksgiving at St. Peter's, he was there in the front row with his brother and Catherine. I don't think that'll happen this year. I think it'll be the Cambridge kids, and I think Harry and Meghan will be put at least in the second row, and maybe even away from being, let's say, behind Charles or Camilla or William or Catherine, just to kind of get them out of the main shot so they're not like directly behind the Queen. Because I think they did a little bit of a mistake in that, you know, as they were leaving from Exit, and I think in March of 2020, they did have Meghan and Harry right behind the Queen. I don't think they'll do that this time. I think they'll kind of relegate Harry and Meghan to the background. Even in the concert, they'll do the same thing. And I also feel like I gained weight. Oh, and I need to get back on eating better and working out more consistently. Yeah. So I hope you guys found that interesting, and I think the same thing will happen here. So Charles has said he wants a very pared down coronation, and obviously the Queen's was grand. I believe there was about 6,000 people there. Charles's will be only 2,000, and so they're very much paring it down. And I really feel like we saw all those coronets and everything during the coronation. I personally think we really won't see much of that this time. I think in order to show a more public face and not seem so ostentatious, so basically dripping in jewels and wealth and everything, I feel like there will be a very much a pared down situation, whereas the main line, or perhaps even more broader, just the working royals, will be the only ones wearing any sort of tiaras or anything like that. And they will be in the front. So what I feel like is Catherine and William, Catherine will be wearing a tiara. William may be wearing a crown of some sort. Now, I could see them not doing that, but I could also see that as a possibility. In addition, I imagine the Wales' children will all be there, and in one form or another, they will all be perhaps wearing cornets as well, because they are the future heirs to the throne. And they, well, more specifically George, but they are the next in line. They are the future generation of the crown. So I feel like Charles and Camilla and William and his family will have hugely prominent roles at the coronation. Now, what happens with Harry and Meghan? Well, much like the Jubilee, I feel like they'll be sat behind the working members of the royal family. In addition, based on perhaps how William is feeling, or perhaps Charles after the memoir comes out, if he does go, he'll be sat much like he was at the Jubilee, 2 rows behind and back in the corner. So Harry and Meghan, when they went to the St. Paul's service, which was the only public part of the Jubilee that they attended, that we saw them at, Harry and Meghan were sat next to Sarah Chateau. Sarah Chateau is the daughter of Princess Margaret, and they were sat next to her. And Sarah Chateau, she's lovely. She always looks impeccably dressed. She has very much a uniform when it comes to what she wears when she's on royal duties in a way. She's not a working member of the royal family, but she has a great hat game, and she usually has this very sweet cardigan on. So they were sat next to her, and I'm like, ooh, that hurt. And you could tell too, that was not what they were expecting, because they had to tell Eugenie and Beatrice to move. So the rumor is, the discussion is that when Harry and Meghan came in, they came in late. Supposedly, they delayed their own car so that they could arrive on their own. They were supposed to arrive with Beatrice and Eugenie, and they made a fuss, and they inevitably arrived separately and later. And they walk down the aisle, and they get there, and Beatrice is sitting at the aisle next to her husband, because blood royal always goes first. Her husband, Eugenie, her husband, and then it was like, oh yeah, Harry and Meghan, you're inside the row. That hardly ever happens. When it comes to royals, everybody is sat within, so nobody has to walk over somebody to get to their seat. So you have a couple of pictures where awkwardly Beatrice is getting up and basically the whole row is getting out. So Harry and Meghan can be shuffled over there in the corner. And Harry, you could tell he felt it. He felt the humiliation of literally being shoved as far away as humanly possible from his brother and his father. The Queen unfortunately could not attend due to her health. So he was shoved in that corner, and you saw pictures of him, and he looked miffed. He was like, oh, why am I here? Because you got to remember, during the Jubilee, he was sat, it was William, Catherine, Harry, and they were at the front line. So it was the Charles, Camilla, William, Catherine, Harry, and the Queen was there as well. So Harry was very much told publicly and by example that, hey, if you leave, if you decide you're not going to be a working member of the royal family anymore, you are going to be shuffled to the corner. In addition to that, you got a lesser space than the York girls, who are lower than you in the line of succession. That was a huge slap in the face to Harry. And it was very deliberately done because I think the palace at that point needed to put Harry and Meghan in their place publicly. They needed to say, even though we are not engaging, we're trying to stay above everything, we want to let you guys know too that we see what Harry and Meghan are doing, and we have made the decision to shove them into the side. We're shoving them in this corner, letting you know that yes, we know what's going on. We know that they are divisive figures, that they're not necessarily super popular. So we'll invite them, but we're going to put them over there. And I feel like that was a huge, huge thing to do. And I feel like we'll see the same thing at the coronation. Now, granted, during the Queen's funeral, that Harry and Meghan were essentially sat behind Charles and Camilla, although there was an errant candle that decided to block Meghan's face. And I felt like the cameras at the BBC were making a very, very specific emphasis not to show Meghan Markle. So it was interesting because as Catherine and Camilla were leaving Buckingham Palace to go to the funeral, as soon as they passed, the camera should have technically stayed on there to see Sophie and Meghan pass. But as soon as Catherine and Camilla passed and that other car started approaching, all of a sudden we panned to a wide shot. Now, granted, I will say that sometimes British coverage of events, live events, ain't the best. But, although I will give them the pass, they haven't really done this in 70 years. So I feel like we will see very much the same thing, that they will very much try to block Harry and Meghan because they might get booed. And I think that's a very, very real possibility because they've basically made fun of the Queen. They've made fun of her country. They don't like any of the traditions, the heritage, anything like that. And we still have this spare book coming out. There could be more revelations, more allegations coming out as the year goes on or in 2023. So I feel like they could walk out to a series of loud boos. And I think that would be good for them. I said, again, because I don't want to participate because I want to capture it as a journalistic thing. I definitely heard it at the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. I think we'll hear it again here. And I think the boos will be louder. I think they'll be louder if they keep those titles. Obviously, there's a lot of question about how they keep the titles and everything. I'm not going to go into that. There's government possibilities of it. Although Harry and Meghan did say they were willing to voluntarily give them up. I wonder if they'll be pressed on that. I would imagine they'll be pressed on that. So again, I feel like the palace will take this chance to very much publicly, once again, let Harry and Meghan know where they are in the pecking order. Because this has to be done. Monarchies are hierarchies. There's no way to get about it. Every monarchy is a hierarchy. There's a point. There's a pyramid. There is a top person that is the king. Next thing is the heir. Then the heir's heir. And then the spare. And it goes down, 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 down. And if you're not in that direct line. So that direct line used to include Harry, but once William's children were born, it became William's children. So if you're not in that direct line, you're not that important anymore. And I know that's hard to hear. Again, everybody as a human being has intrinsic value and intrinsic worth because they are made in the image of God. But when it comes to royals, there has to be somebody at top of the pyramid, and that is the king and his wife, although she's a little less. And then, so anyways, all that to say is that the palace needs to make this clear to Harry and Meghan. And in addition to being relegated to the back row, they will also be not invited to any big diplomatic events, diplomatic parties, anything like that. They may go to a family dinner that occurs, but not anything diplomatic or big. So how do we know this? Well, during the Queen's funeral, there was this diplomatic reception held where all the foreign dignitaries who came, including the foreign royals, all went to Buckingham Palace for this dinner. Now, I can't remember exactly how it happened, but it seemed to be that it was floated that Harry and Meghan were going. No, this is what happened. Oh gosh. So it was somehow that Harry and Meghan got an invitation, quote unquote, and then the palace was like, they were never supposed to get one. We don't know why they have one, but yeah, they can't come. So I feel like it was their attempt once again to put out feelers going, yeah, we want to go, we're going. And the palace is like, No. And I feel like this will be the same thing. They won't get to go to these because Harry and Meghan, you cannot trust them not to pursue their own interests. So you must exclude them from these things. And if Harry and Meghan were working members, they would absolutely go. Even if perhaps they were private members of the public, but they had a good relationship with the royal family, I would think they might go. But they can't risk Harry and Meghan, especially Meghan, side hustling and trying to make inroads and networking at an event like this. It's wildly inappropriate, and that's why they prevented her from doing it at the diplomatic reception. And we also saw that they just really don't trust her, because even in the documentary, Harry said that they wouldn't even consider meeting at the Sandringham Summit until Meghan was completely off the continent. That's how little they trust her. So no way in heck will Harry and Meghan be at any big event that is not directly family specific, that's private and family, any public event. So they will not be on the balcony. That's the other thing. Harry and Meghan, when the whole family comes back, they will not be on the balcony. I imagine, much like the Jubilee, it will just be Charles, William, and his children. That's it. Obviously Camilla and Catherine and everything as well, but it will be just the main family. Perhaps some of the working members, but I really think it'll be a repeat of the Diamond Jubilee and the Platinum, when it's just basically those core members, those 7 members, that the core team, that'll be what's up there, because they are the future. Now, perhaps more of the family will come out later, but I imagine once again it'll be working members of the royal family, because again, Harry and Meghan, they decide to leave. So the royals must make a distinction between actual working members of the royal family and people who are private citizens. Now, at another Trooping of Color event, Harry and Meghan may be let up on the balcony if they decide to go. But when it comes to really the coronation here, they won't be up there. Once again, it just makes no sense to put them up there. They have no relationship with the royal family. Their children have no relationship with the royal family. They're not even on the same continent. Doesn't make sense for them to be there. So finally, why would Harry and Meghan even go to this? They've made a whole series telling us how much they hate the royals, hate the protocols, hate the institution, how much they despise William for being the heir, how much they dislike Charles. They just have gone through everything, explaining to us again and again why they so dislike this institution. It was terrible to them. It took their security. It wouldn't let Meghan be queen. They couldn't travel to Commonwealth for free. They didn't even want Harry and Meghan for free, because that was Harry and Meghan's offer. We're so great. We'll make our own money. We'll do our own side hustles, and then you can get us for free because we're so important. You need us. We are critical to your success. And the monarchy's like, well, we survived without Edward VIII, or otherwise known as the Duke of Windsor. I think we can survive without you too. And that was the decision that the palace made, which again made sense. So why would Harry and Meghan go? Well, much like I said actually in the Platinum Jubilee video, they're desperate. They need something. What this reality show has shown us is that Harry and Meghan don't have much to offer except for their grievances against the royal family. They don't have anything to offer. They didn't tell us what Archewell is doing in the future. They didn't focus on, actually what would have been super interesting is for them to focus on their development of a scripted show. Perhaps Meghan's Pearl, she could have gotten it off the ground. Perhaps I would still have been more interested in seeing a Invictus documentary if they could actually do it and not have it focus on them, which I feel like is what's going to happen. But if they could get something off the ground to show to us that they are more than just their rage, that they're more than just their pettiness, their vengeance, all these sorts of things, I would actually be behind them. Tell me how you are going to make it on your own. Let me have a way to get behind you, because I'm a monarchist. I'm a monarchist. I love royals. I love the royal family. So I don't want to see somebody trying to tear it down so desperately. So Harry and Meghan, I would love to support you. I would love to be behind you. But you need to actually make this on your own. And I don't think they're there yet, and I don't know if they'll ever get there. Again, Meghan had the TIG. That was probably one of her more successful things, but it wasn't anything groundbreaking, wasn't particularly interesting. There's tons of people online, some even Instagram influencers that had more followers than Meghan did, I'm sure, at the time before that her and Harry got together. So I don't feel like the influencer game, I feel like that's very, very much her speed. But I feel like she'll definitely consider that a step back. But The Tig was successful. She was not a great actress. She had a very mediocre career. She had really one role that was consistent and good somewhat, and that was her role on Suits. And I think it was because, in part, if you read Tom Bower's book, it became very apparent that Meghan really glommed on to the character of Rachel and to a certain extent thought she was the character of Rachel. It was a little weird. But it's this whole thing where it's like they just don't have much to show us. Harry was an army guy, but we've been told there was this whole report about how he was unable to graduate high school without cheating, basically. And that was an allegation that was made. And he was in the army for a while, but there were a lot of reports that he wasn't really great in that either. So what are they going to do? You guys have to do something. You have to prove to the world that you are more than the petty figures you've become. And definitely them demanding this apology does not help their relationship with the press, media, anything in the slightest. Again, it just makes them look petty and vindictive. Now, granted, perhaps there were some things wrong on both sides. However, I don't think the monarchy will do itself any favors if it does do a massive apology without getting Harry and Meghan to admit fault as well, because they are most definitely also at fault in some of these situations. And if they can't do that, they have to do more for Netflix. So what do? They go to the Jubilee, they go to the Coronation because they need more content, because they don't have anything else to offer. And I feel like that is very sad, the only reason you might go to an event is because you need content. And I think the apology or the apology tour could be a huge bit of content for them. That's the only other reason you would go. That's really just quite sad, but I really feel like that's where Harry and Meghan are right now. They're desperate. They need content, and I just don't think they're able to produce it on their own. And I will say as well, Meghan, when it came to Pearl should have survived the purge at Netflix. Pearl was going to be produced by Meghan Markle. She's a huge name. She's a huge draw, more than some of these other shows. I think they canceled it because they did not have faith in it. Spotify and their relationship with Netflix. Where will these programs go? Will archetypes have staying power, or will it drop off the face of the earth without the publicity machine going on every episode because of the news of Meghan Markle? She is a news generator, but does she convert? That's the question. And I feel like that's the question Netflix and Spotify are wondering. Do Harry and Meghan stand the test of time, meaning that people continue to watch their content? Or is there this huge spike and this pit, and it just doesn't get any better than that because everybody has heard it and then nobody cares? And that's a huge problem for Harry and Meghan. And so they do need to go to this coronation regardless of anything else. I think they'll go because they have no choice. And again, they just really want to air their grievances constantly. This is all they have. This is all they're ever going to be, is these grievances. So they're just going to turn the screws to monarchy as much as it can, trying to wring any bit of content out of them. And that's why, again, William and the rest of the family just needs to ignore Harry and Meghan on this. Yes, meet with them, discuss with them, but I still think, based on what Harry was saying about his father and his brother still having these misconceptions, still living in this veil of information. Harry doesn't explain what that is, but I think this veil of information is just basically a misunderstanding of reality between the two. Harry lives in his fantasy reality, and I think the royals are a bit more based in actual reality. Harry's living in the Matrix, guys. And William and Charles, they have taken the blue or red pill or whatever it is, and they are out of the Matrix and they're seeing the world for what it really is. But Harry, he's still in the Matrix at this point. So guys, let me know what you think of this video. Let me know what you think of my theory. Am I right? Am I wrong? And thank you so much to the people who have subscribed. I wanted to hit 100K by the end of this year, and I kind of said that on the last episode, and a lot of people subscribed, which was awesome. And in addition, thank you again to everybody who stuck around when I was at a couple thousand and my videos didn't fit the full screen. I can't believe I did that. And I had, it was just bad, guys. So guys, thank you so much for sticking by me through all this time. I really, really, truly do appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you guys again soon. Bye.